There's something extraordinary about the human mind. It's invisible, intangible, and yet it defines who we are, our memories, our decisions, our creativity, and our sense of self. And as the years pass, one question becomes more and more important. How do we keep this beautiful, complex engine of thought alive, sharp, and full of life, even as the rest of our body slows down? Today, we'll explore the hidden power of the aging brain and the science-backed ways you can keep it young. We'll talk about the games, the exercises, and the small daily habits that can preserve your clarity, protect your memory, and help you stay vibrant for decades to come. Many people think the brain is like a machine, that it wears out with time, that it can't repair itself, and that once memory starts to fade, it's all downhill from there. But modern neuroscience tells a different story, one filled with hope. Because the truth is, the brain isn't a machine. It's more like a living forest, full of pathways, connections, and ever-growing branches. Even after 60, 70, 80 and beyond, your brain can grow new neurons. It can create new connections, rewire old ones, and adapt to new challenges. This ability, called neuroplasticity, is one of the most amazing discoveries in brain science. It means your brain is not fixed. It's flexible, alive, and responsive to what you do every single day. When you play a game that challenges your memory, your attention, or your logic, you're not just passing the time. You're literally strengthening the architecture of your brain. Imagine each brain cell as a light in a massive city. When you focus on learning or solving something new, those lights start to flicker faster, connecting with other lights, building roads of understanding. The more you challenge yourself, the brighter and more interconnected that city becomes. But when you stop learning, when you slip into routine, when every day looks the same, that city begins to dim. The lights grow weaker, the connections thin out. That's when forgetfulness creeps in, when reaction time slows, when curiosity fades. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The brain doesn't retire. It only quiets down when we stop asking it to work. So the first secret to a sharp mind is this: keep it busy. But not just busy with routine or background noise. Busy with meaning. Busy with thought. Busy with curiosity. Now let's talk about how this works. Every time you learn something, whether it's a word in another language, a new card game, or how to use a smartphone app, your brain produces a chemical called dopamine. It's the same chemical that creates feelings of reward and pleasure. This dopamine acts like fertilizer for your brain cells. It encourages the growth of new neural connections and helps you remember what you've learned. That's why activities that are slightly challenging but still enjoyable, like puzzles, strategy games, or even musical instruments, are so powerful. They sit in that perfect zone of difficulty, not too easy, not too hard. They keep your dopamine levels healthy and your mind active. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you're playing Sudoku or a word puzzle. Each time you solve a tricky square or find a clever word, your brain rewards you with a tiny burst of dopamine. Over time, this keeps your neurons firing faster and more efficiently. It also trains your mind to stay focused for longer or think about learning a new card game, maybe something your grandchildren taught you. At first, you might feel confused. You forget the rules, make a few mistakes, maybe even laugh at yourself. But within a few days, your brain starts adapting. You anticipate moves faster. You recall combinations more easily. That's neuroplasticity in action. That's your brain saying, "Thank you for keeping me alive." And here's the amazing part. Brain games don't just improve your memory in the short term. They help protect it in the long term too. Studies from institutions like Harvard and the Mayo Clinic have shown that mentally stimulating activities can actually delay or reduce the risk of cognitive decline. In other words, the more you challenge your mind, the more resilient it becomes. Now, this doesn't mean you need to sit for hours doing crosswords or download dozens of brain training apps. In fact, too much repetition can have the opposite effect. The secret is variety. Your brain thrives on novelty, on the thrill of the unfamiliar. Try mixing things up. Play chess one day, learn a few dance steps the next, read something outside your usual interests the day after that. Variety feeds curiosity, and curiosity keeps the brain young. Let's pause for a moment and talk about something deeper. Confidence. Many older adults underestimate their own cognitive power. They say things like, "I can't remember names anymore," or "I'm too old to learn new technology." But here's the truth. When you say that, your brain listens. Your words become commands. Scientists call this the expectancy effect. The idea that what we expect to happen often becomes reality. If you tell your brain it's old and slow, it will behave that way. But if you treat it as active, adaptable, and capable, if you challenge it gently every day, it will rise to meet that belief. So as you listen to this, make yourself a quiet promise: I will never underestimate my brain again. You have decades of experience, problem solving, wisdom, and emotional intelligence stored inside your mind. Those things don't fade, they evolve. Let's explore how specific activities help keep your brain sharp. First, memory games. Memory isn't just about remembering birthdays or shopping lists. It's about strengthening your attention and pattern recognition. When you try to memorize something, even a short list of words or numbers, you're training your brain's hippocampus, the region responsible for learning and spatial awareness. You can play simple recall games with friends, like name 5 fruits that start with the letter A, or remember these 3 words: lamp, book, garden. Now tell me them again in 5 minutes. These small challenges activate deep circuits in your brain. Second, strategy games like chess, bridge, or even certain video games designed for seniors. These require planning, anticipation, and flexible thinking. They build something psychologists call executive function, which helps you make quick decisions, manage emotions, and adapt to change. Third, language games. Learning a few new words in another language, or even creating your own fun word associations. Every time you reach for a word or recall its meaning, your brain's language centers, primarily the left temporal lobe, become more active. Over time, this strengthens both memory and verbal fluency. And fourth, movement-based brain games. These are powerful because they combine mental and physical activity. Things like dancing, tai chi, or even following a rhythm with your hands engage multiple brain regions at once. The motor cortex, the cerebellum, and the prefrontal areas. When these systems work together, your coordination, balance, and focus improve, making you sharper in both body and mind. Now, some people think, well, I read or watch TV every day. Isn't that enough mental stimulation? Unfortunately, passive activities don't stimulate the brain in the same way. Watching TV or scrolling through news feeds gives information, but it doesn't challenge your brain to respond. The key difference between information and stimulation is engagement. When you're engaged, when you're solving, creating, remembering, or imagining, your brain lights up in multiple areas at once. That's what creates growth. So if you love reading, that's wonderful. Just add a small twist. After reading, try summarizing what you've learned aloud, or discuss it with someone. Or write down one question the book made you think about. That little step of reflection transforms passive reading into active thinking. And here's a simple truth: brain games don't have to be complicated or expensive. Some of the best brain exercises are free. Conversation, curiosity, laughter, storytelling, and listening. When you engage with people, share memories, or try to understand another person's point of view, your brain creates empathy-based neural pathways. These are essential for emotional intelligence and overall mental resilience. We often forget that human connection is itself a mental workout. Every conversation forces your brain to recall words, interpret tone, and build meaning. So spending time with others, even over a cup of coffee, can be just as valuable as a crossword puzzle. And then there's creativity. Painting, singing, writing, or simply daydreaming. Creative activities don't just entertain. They strengthen the brain's ability to make connections between unrelated ideas. That's what keeps problem-solving alive, even in advanced age. We'll continue exploring these powerful habits and how to build them into daily life in part 2 of this journey. But for now, remember this: your brain was built for growth. Age doesn't stop it. It's your curiosity that fuels it, your engagement that feeds it, and your belief that keeps it young. Let's continue. Now that we understand how powerful the aging brain truly is, it's time to turn that knowledge into practice, into small daily steps that make a lasting difference. Because mental sharpness isn't built in one day. It's built in the quiet routines, the playful moments, and the intentional choices we make every morning when we wake up. The first key to maintaining a sharp mind is consistency. Just like muscles need regular movement, your brain needs daily exercise. And the best part? You don't need to carve out hours of your day. Even 15 to 20 minutes of focused mental activity can create real, measurable changes in brain function. The key is engagement. Doing something that truly challenges you. Let's start with something simple: pattern recognition. Games like Sudoku, word searches, or even spotting differences in pictures help train your attention to detail. They strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focus and decision-making. When you engage in these activities regularly, you improve your ability to notice patterns in everyday life, like remembering where you left your keys or recognizing faces faster. Then there are logic and reasoning games, such as chess, checkers, or certain tablet-based strategy games. These activities help strengthen the connections between the brain's hemispheres, allowing for better problem-solving and adaptability. Studies have shown that people who play mentally demanding games a few times a week demonstrate higher cognitive flexibility, meaning they can switch between tasks and ideas more easily. That flexibility helps you respond calmly when plans change, or when life throws an unexpected challenge your way. But the real secret? You don't have to stick with one type of game. The more variety you expose your brain to, the stronger and more agile it becomes. Try alternating between games that use words, numbers, shapes, and strategy. Each type activates different parts of your brain, like giving all your mental muscles a balanced workout. Now, let's talk about something that surprises many people: learning something completely new after 60. The brain loves novelty. When you try an activity you've never done before, painting, learning to play an instrument, using a new app, or even practicing a few phrases in another language, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine and acetylcholine that strengthen learning circuits. This means that trying new things literally rewires your brain. It keeps neurons young, flexible, and ready to adapt. The excitement and slight discomfort you feel when facing something unfamiliar isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign your brain is growing. Think about someone who decides to learn the guitar at 70. At first, the fingers feel clumsy, the chords confusing. But with each session, small miracles happen in the background. New connections form, muscle memory begins to build, concentration deepens, and before long, a melody emerges, not just from the strings, but from the mind itself. That's neuroplasticity in action, and it never expires with age. Beyond games and learning, there's another powerful factor in brain health that often gets overlooked: movement. Physical exercise isn't just good for the body. It's one of the most effective tools for keeping the brain sharp. When you move, whether walking, swimming, or dancing, your heart pumps more oxygen and nutrients to the brain. This improves blood flow, supports memory function, and encourages the growth of new neural connections. In fact, neuroscientists have found that people who engage in regular physical activity, even light exercise like daily walks, have better memory and cognitive function than those who remain sedentary. Exercise triggers the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a special protein that acts like fertilizer for your brain cells, helping them grow stronger and communicate more effectively. So if you combine mental games with movement, for example, doing puzzles after a morning walk or learning dance steps that require rhythm and memory, you create a powerful synergy. Your brain and body begin to work in harmony, enhancing not just your mental clarity, but also your overall vitality. Now, let's look at social connection, perhaps one of the most underrated brain games of all. Loneliness doesn't just affect emotions, it affects cognition. When we spend too much time isolated, the brain receives fewer stimuli, fewer conversations, fewer emotional exchanges. It begins to slow down, not because of age, but because of lack of engagement. That's why regular conversation, laughter, and social play are essential. When you interact with others, discussing ideas, sharing stories, or even playing a simple trivia game, you activate multiple regions of the brain: memory, language, emotional regulation, and empathy. In a way, every conversation is a cognitive workout. Imagine a group of seniors playing a friendly card game. It's not just fun, it's a perfect example of mental exercise in action. They're remembering rules, planning strategies, reading facial expressions, and adjusting to outcomes, all while laughing and connecting. Those moments are worth more than 1,000 solitary crossword puzzles. And speaking of laughter, humor itself is one of the best cognitive enhancers. When you laugh, your brain releases endorphins and dopamine, reducing stress and increasing mental clarity. People who laugh often tend to handle challenges better and maintain stronger immune systems. So, sharing a funny story or watching a comedy isn't just entertainment, it's brain therapy. Let's take a moment to talk about stress. Chronic stress is one of the biggest enemies of brain health. It floods the body with cortisol, a hormone that, in high levels, can shrink parts of the brain involved in memory and decision-making. That's why relaxation isn't a luxury, it's essential. Meditation, deep breathing, prayer, time in nature, or simply sitting quietly with a cup of tea. These moments calm the nervous system and give your brain space to recover. Some people think meditation means sitting in silence for an hour. But it can be as simple as focusing on your breathing for 2 minutes or paying attention to the sounds around you. When you do that, you train your mind to stay present. This mindfulness enhances attention and awareness, core ingredients of a sharp mind. Let's also address one of the most important and overlooked aspects of brain health. Sleep. A well-rested brain is a powerful brain. During deep sleep, your brain processes information, clears out toxins, and strengthens memory. It's like running maintenance overnight. When sleep is poor or interrupted, memory and focus decline rapidly. So make sleep a priority. A peaceful environment, a regular bedtime, and limited screens before bed all make a difference. Now, let's move from science to something more personal, the attitude of lifelong learning. Aging gracefully isn't about trying to feel young. It's about staying curious. A curious mind doesn't age. It expands. Every time you ask a question, seek a new answer, or wonder how something works, you're feeding your brain's growth. Curiosity keeps you mentally alive. Here's a beautiful truth. Wisdom and curiosity can coexist. Many older adults believe that wisdom replaces the need to learn. But the most vibrant minds understand that wisdom isn't the end of learning. It's the beginning of deeper learning. When you combine wisdom with curiosity, you create a brain that never stagnates, that constantly looks for meaning, that continues to grow no matter the number of candles on the cake. There's a phrase neuroscientists use called use it or lose it. It's simple but profound. If you stop challenging your brain, you risk losing some of its sharpness. But if you keep using it, even a little every day, you maintain and even improve cognitive strength. It's like keeping a garden alive. You water it a little, remove the weeds, expose it to sunlight, and in time it blooms again and again. So what does this look like in daily life? It could mean reading a few pages of a new book each morning. It could mean doing a quick puzzle while you drink your coffee. It could mean joining a local club, learning to cook a new recipe, or sharing your life stories with your grandchildren. Every one of these actions strengthens your brain and your sense of purpose, because that's the final piece of the puzzle. Purpose. People with a sense of purpose, something to look forward to, something to contribute, tend to stay mentally and emotionally stronger. Purpose gives direction, and direction gives motivation. Whether your purpose is volunteering, mentoring, creating art, or simply being there for loved ones, it activates your brain's reward system and fills life with meaning. Remember, intelligence isn't measured by what you know. It's reflected in how willing you are to keep learning. Staying mentally sharp doesn't mean mastering every new gadget or memorizing endless facts. It means staying engaged, alive and open, curious about the world, curious about yourself, curious about tomorrow. So, as you go through your days, try this. Dedicate just 20 minutes each day to a brain challenge. Mix it up. Puzzles one day, conversation another, movement the next. Let your brain dance, stretch, and grow. In time, you'll notice something powerful. Not just better memory or quicker thinking, but a brighter sense of awareness. A mind that feels awake. Your brain is the most magnificent organ in your body, capable of more than you can imagine, no matter your age. It has carried you through decades of change, love, learning, and life. And it's still ready for more. The real secret to a sharp mind isn't found in fancy programs or complex theories. It's in your daily choice to stay engaged, to challenge yourself, to laugh, to learn, to live with intention. Age can touch the body, but it doesn't have to dull the mind. So keep playing, keep learning, keep asking questions. Because a sharp mind isn't about being young. It's about staying alive inside. And as long as you keep that spark of curiosity burning, your brain will continue to reward you with clarity, creativity, and joy.